This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, sharing my screen. Yeah, for the first few minutes, we'll discuss what we were trying to accomplish yesterday. We were trying to cut over or fail over a system from AWS environment to Azure environment, right? We are trying to do a migration, and when you say migration, the cutover or the movement of the system from one location to another location. It can be from on-premises to the cloud, or it can be from one cloud to another cloud. So we actually do a cutover and close the migration, right? But ideally, the replication will continue to happen. Now, see, for example, you can start the migration process, the initial replication process at the beginning of the week, or you can start it today. And then when you feel it's time for cutover, you can just plan and get the downtime only for the switchover, only for the failover. Okay, so you will get very less downtime for your application. So that is what we were trying to do, right? We have been replicating the system from AWS. We have been replicating this machine from AWS to Azure platform, right? So, and if you look at here, it was protected. So we were waiting for this particular state to come up, protected state. I can refresh. Maybe this is old screen. Yeah. Okay, so it says, okay, that's fine. I think I just powered on this VM. Let's refresh it. Okay, but it's already protected. The VM is already protected. It's healthy, and okay, let's see. Yeah, it's protected. But I powered off this VM for some time. Maybe it will take a minute or two to show up properly. Okay, but ideally, like since it is protected, which means we already have some kind of recovery point available. Okay, so I just powered off the machine last evening or last night, and then that's why it says no communication to the source machine. But we already have a checkpoint which is already there. So once after the migration replication is complete, fully completed, okay, you can see that there is a protection status. When the protected status is available, which means we already have some recovery point for that particular system in the Azure platform. That was it. I mean, that is what it conveys here. And we have never done any kind of test failover or actual failover. We have not done that. So ideally, in a migration scenario, they will not go and do the actual failover. 1 week prior to the actual failover, they will try to do a test failover. So test failover is initiated to perform the application testing, integration testing, and the quality testing, performance. All those things will be done as part of the test failover. So when we do a test failover, if in the destination environment, if you already have some machines already running in the same virtual network, definitely you should not do a test failover to the production network. Instead, you should create a test subnet or test VNet just for performing the testing actually. Okay, so because like the testing might impact the production environment. Maybe like there might be an IP conflict, or there might be some existing machine might get into SID mismatch or conflict or whatever, right? So ideally, we should do a test failover to a virtual network which is having a test or something like that. Okay, I seem to have a test network, so I'll select the test virtual network, and it is definitely the recommended option. That's what they are saying, right? It is recommended that for a test failover, for use a network different from production network. That is what always they will recommend. Okay, so I can just copy this statement here. So during the cutover, actually, like we are not taking downtime for the entire replication time, but here we are just taking cutover only for the actual switchover. Okay, so now I have selected the look from where exactly it is coming from. This can be a Amazon machine, or this can be on-prem. Now we are replicating it to Microsoft Azure, and it says that this is the lowest recovery point we have got. Okay, so Sunday, March 29/8. Okay, which is very close now. 3 minutes, only like 2.5 minutes difference. You can also go and choose a different recovery point. For example, if you want to have some application consistent recovery point, or some yesterday's recovery point, or whatever, you can just go and choose whatever you want. You will have multiple recovery points to which you can choose from. For example, if there is a failure in some of the switchover or failover, you can try to do one more level of wait for one more level of recovery point and try to do the failover using that. Okay, so I'm just going to do a test failover now. So once I start the test failover, what will happen? It will go and create a virtual machine with -test. Okay, so you will start seeing a new virtual machine coming up here with AMZ web server -test. It will be there with -test. Let's give it a minute. Okay, so that's what is going on now. The test failover is happening. Okay, so as part of the test failover, there will be some prerequisite check. So prerequisites check seems to be successful. Okay, it is starting the test failover. It will create a test virtual machine and it will start the test virtual machine automatically. Okay, so that's what it is going to do now. So always the first step in cutover is the testing process. This is where we go and do a quality check. We'll do and do all the integration testing, performance testing, all sort of that. Okay, so you should migrate it to a different network rather than the actual network. Okay, if you go and look at here, it will go and create a VM with -test. I can refresh it here. See, it has created a same exact name with a suffix -test. Okay, that is what it will create. When you do a test failover. Okay, that is how you can differentiate it. So once this machine is online and running, you can just go and connect to that. So I'm doubtful if it will have it doesn't have a public IP address. Even the agent is getting ready. It's installing and getting ready. So meanwhile, I can just go and see if there is any unused public IP addresses. Okay, I got only one for SQL, but I'll use one for the Amazon machine. Okay, I'll create one. I'll call it as Amazon web server IP address. Okay, I can just create it in whatever group I want to. Okay, let me go and create it. Okay, once the public IP address is reserved or created, I can just go and attach it to the instance. Okay, it is there. Now I can just go and associate with that VM. Okay, you should start seeing something. Amazon web server -test. You should select this one and click OK. So once after that is attached, you will be able to perform whatever the testing that you want to do. Okay. Yeah. So you can see that the testing, the VM creation, prerequisite check, everything is done. It took hardly 2 minutes to perform the actual failover. Okay, overall it took only how much? Yeah, less than 2 minutes, 66 seconds. Okay, it will be super fast. So these are the steps it will happen. Okay, so during the test failover. Okay, now post having the IP address, I can just copy the IP address and let me check if the security group is allowing the web traffic, but I'll just go and try out. Okay, so no result. So possibly there is no traffic coming onto this system using the web package. I'll go to the network interface again. Okay, so this is the VM that is associated to this test network. I can look at the network security group. Okay, it doesn't have any network security group. That's okay. So I'll just go and attach it to a network security group. In order to do that, I can just duplicate and I'll create a network security group for my web server. Okay, I can allow the HTTP traffic for that particular security group so that I will be able to access it. Okay, done. So we can go and allow the inbound traffic. I will allow the HTTP. Okay, now we are done. I can just go and associate that particular network security group now. Save it. Now we are perfectly ready for testing. We have got all the necessary rules allowed. We have got the public IP. I can just go and refresh it. Okay, it will take a couple of minutes to converge because we have the security group rules just applied. I can also try and log into the VM to verify whether I'm able to successfully connect to that VM. Okay, let's give it a time. Okay, let's connect. Let me pick up the password. The password for web server is this one, right? Looks like it is taking some time. Okay, only 80 is allowed. Okay, so 3389 has not been allowed. RDP through 389. Okay, that's why I'm not able to take RDP. Okay, let's give it a minute. Okay, security rule created. But generally it takes a minute to reflect. Okay, so now I'm able to. So I'm using the same credential that we had in the AWS environment. See, I'm able to connect to the Amazon Web Server 1. Perfect. So I'm able to log into the machine that was created in Amazon and migrated to Azure platform. So I should start seeing all the folders and the specific shortcuts that was there in the desktop, right? So all these things are available. Okay, we are able to log in and the system is currently in US East 1D. Okay, so we are perfectly good here. So now we can also check whether the web page is opening. Perfect. Okay, so AWS to Azure. Now we are in already in Azure platform, and this IP is from um, Azure range actually. So from Azure, we have taken this IP address 4076.146.2. Okay, we are all good now. So we have tested it. We are able to log in. I'm able to see all the files, folders. There is no impact there. Okay, I'm able to access the web page. So I feel like my testing is completed. Now I can prepare for the actual cutover. So this time, instead of test failover, I'll go to the project and I'll just go and do the actual failover now. Okay, let me go to the replicated item. Let me select the replicated item now. Okay, it says healthy and it is saying that we should clean up the test failover. Only then the other options will be available. Okay, until you clean up the test failover, until you go and delete this VM, the other options will not be enabled. All the options will be grayed out. So you have to clean up this VM, and then we can proceed further. So let me go and say clean up test failover. So this will go and okay, we can just mention that testing was successful, and we are going to clean up the VM, delete test failover virtual machine. Okay, so that is what the next step is. So we'll go and clean up the test VM. Okay, it will go and stop and delete the test VM. Okay, once this cleanup is done, we will be ready for the actual failover. So this option will get enabled after the cleanup test failover is complete. We'll use standard terms. Okay, now completing the test failover is going on. So it will go and delete the VM. So you can see that it is ending the test failover and cleaning up the test VM. Now if I go and refresh it, this VM will disappear. Okay, you can see that it's still there. Let's give it a minute. I think it has not started. The cleanup is just in progress. Okay, still going on. Let's give it a minute for that to properly go and clean this VM. Okay, you can also look at the latest recovery point available. If I select this option, it will give me the complete list of recovery points. What are the different checkpoints it has taken? No. Public IP and network security group we created manually and attached them. So it will not clean up anything that we created manually. So only the storage and the contents associated with the test VM that was created by the tool, Azure Migrate tool, will get cleaned up. The IP address and the network security group, yeah, will remain there. So you can see they are providing you the most latest top 5 checkpoints. So one is from last night. So after 11:30, I think I powered off the VM. Then the checkpoint stopped actually, and then I powered it on in the morning. So now we can see that it is taking checkpoint every 5 minutes, kind of. So 9:03, 9:08, 9:30, 9:18. So it is taking a lot of checkpoints now. So now the cleanup is complete. I can refresh it. So now I should start seeing the failover option again. Okay, I can see now this test VM will go off now. See, it went off. Okay, now we are ready for the final actual failover. Okay, let's do that. So it is the latest one, and this option will be made available only if you are doing a vCenter based cutover, meaning currently like Azure does not have any control on AWS virtualization layer. Okay, because we have not, even we as a customer, we don't have access to do anything from the virtualization platform. But then if you are doing a cutover from on-premises, you will have integration to your vCenter. So the vCenter can switch off or power off the source virtual machine during the failover. Okay, that option is available in the VMware on-premises environment, but in cloud-to-cloud migration, you will not have that option. Okay, this is the actual cutover. Okay, this option will not be enabled because this is the AWS VM. We don't have access. We can go and manually power it off. Okay, so let's say okay. And now we are actually doing the real failover. Now the machine that will get created will have the exact same name of the source AWS. Okay, it will not have hyphen test or any kind of suffix now. Okay. So only 2 minutes difference. That is very, very good. Also, when the protection is already available, the protected status is available. This is the status we need to verify before doing the cutover. The status should have to be protected, number one. And you also should have some multiple recovery points. Okay, you should have multiple recovery points. Okay, you have the option to go and change certain options like the compute, network, disk. Okay, currently the replicated item is getting failed over. So otherwise, you can just go and change the compute type like B1 or B2, or if you want to change the instance family, or if you want to change the network. So all those options will be made available. Even if you want to change the drive size or disk size, if you want to change it from SSD to premium SSD, you can also do those things here. Okay, you have the option to do that before initiating the failover or cutover. You have some options to modify. Okay, you can see that the source server details, which process server it is using, what are the IP, what is the version. Currently, it is switching over to B1S standard VM based on the source size. Okay, RPO is 2 minutes. Okay, the change rate is very, very less. It's only 3 GB change rate. Okay, this is also important. If you have a virtual machine which has a high data change rate, it will take a lot of time to cut over. Okay, Ganesh was asking some question right yesterday. So it at all depends on the daily data change rate also. It will take more time for failover and cutover. Okay, fine. So here, let's go to the overview again. Let's check if the VM is getting created. Perfect. It is created now, and it doesn't have any hyphen test or whatever. It is now running, and I can just go and use the same public IP address and network security group. Okay, I don't have to go and get one more. It's not needed. I can just go to home, go to public IP address, use the same address. It should be now available because we have deleted the test failover machine, right? Now I can attach the same thing, but this time I will not have any hyphen test. It will have just the NIC address, I mean, NIC for that particular VM name. Earlier it had hyphen test as a suffix, right? Now you don't have that. Once after you attach the public IP address, you will be able to log in. You will be able to take HTTP connection towards that. But additional step is we need to have that network security group attached as well. Okay, so you have to make sure that you have a public IP. Also assign a network security group that has HTTP and RDP ports allowed. Connect. Okay, let's give it a minute. It will take some time while the machine is failing over. We should not give too much of load, but I have just initiated it, done. Okay, I can just go to the network, the network card, network interface card, and make sure I have the network security group attached to it. Save it. We are all done now. We are good to test. We are good to power off the VM in AWS side. See the advantage now, if you have a traffic manager solution or if you have a DNS global load balancer solution, now you have a same exact machine running in AWS. Also, we have a same exact machine running on Azure platform. You can have redundancy at AWS and cloud level. Now I have the machine available in Azure. I can just copy this IP. So we have a server running in Azure and we have a server running in AWS. So I can just connect a load balancer or a traffic manager to redirect the traffic to Azure and AWS. So we can continue to use that also. Okay, so with that, we are done with the actual failover. Now, if I refresh, I'll start seeing few more options here. Okay, once the failover is completed, you'll start seeing that I can change the recovery point. If there are some complaints coming from the end users or the application owners, you can try and change it to a different recovery point and try whether they're seeing the exact data that they need, or you can try to switch over. And if in case they feel still the data is not properly available, I can just do a resync again. Okay, that option will be available. Okay, I can just try to change the recovery point. If still they are not happy, I can just go and do a resynchronize. And last, if everything is completed, everyone is confirming that we are good, we can just go and commit the migration and close it off and complete the migration fully. And if you want to roll back, you can also re-protect it, but this is mainly for VMware and vCenter and all those options. But if you are seeing some problem today, I can just go and power off the Azure VM and start giving the access to AWS VM, and we are good there. Okay, but if they are identifying after a couple of weeks, then we have to couple of days or after a week, then we have to re-protect and then switch over to the source machine actually. Okay, now let me try to commit it. So once after I commit it, I will not be able to change the recovery point. That is the important thing. Okay, so we are committing that I'm good with this particular recovery point, which I have brought to protection. That's the message that we are confirming here. So once after I commit, the change recovery point option will be grayed out. I will not be able to switch over to any other recovery point. It will clean up all the remaining recovery points, all the remaining snapshots. Okay, let's give it a minute. Okay, now we are done. Let's refresh. Failover is now completed. So the status should turn to failover completed. Now the only option that will be available now after the committing will be complete migration and reprotect. These are the two options that will be enabled after the commit option. So I'll see complete migration and reprotect option. And this disable replication is to stop any kind of replication from happening, and it will also delete the source data. Okay, disable replication, and it will also give us option to delete the data also. Okay, disable replication is what I typed there, right? Yeah. So I can just go and complete the migration now. So are you sure you want to complete the migration? So now this will remove the machine and it will no longer be able to protect it. Now we are going to complete the migration and clean up everything. Okay, so Azure site recovery billing also will be stopped from now. Okay, let's say complete the migration. So there won't be any billing now for using Azure Site Migrate, or else Azure Site Recovery billing will still continue to happen if you leave the migration or replication to continue. Okay, you have to close that job, the site recovery job. Once the job is closed, then billing will stop. Okay, failover is committed, and now we are good to close this and start with the next topic. Okay, we have already mentioned that failure committed. Okay. Okay, I can also go and clean up these two VMs from AWS so that I can stop the billing. Okay, we are good. Okay, any questions from anyone so far on what we have discussed? I think last 2 days plus this last 30 minutes, we have been just discussing migration. Migration is very, very important for the engineers who are involved in migration, build, and cloud operations. They might be asked to do such migrations. You might have to be very clear with the different steps and procedures. Okay, it's disabling the protection, and we can delete the data shortly. So you'll get option to go and disable the replication and delete the data. So Ganesh was not, very clear with the usage of this particular screen and the other screen, right? I will just correlate now quickly. Okay. So while this cleanup is happening, I'll go to the Azure Migrate console Now Azure Migrate should show you all the different option, the replicate option, migrate option, all those things. So if I scroll down, you should see both the options enabled now. So if I want to replicate more, I can click on replicate again. It will give me the same exact option from this console itself. Again, it is going to give us the same option that we did yesterday. And it is going to give me the option to select the VM and migrate it. That is number one. That is for the replication. Now, if I click on migrate, it's the same thing, which machine I want to shut down and cut over. Okay, at the end, it is the same recovery services vault console, but you have a link enabled from the Azure Migrate console itself. You'll be able to see which server we discovered, which server we replicated, all those things. Okay, clear? Let's refresh, close. Okay, disabling protection. Okay, I'll clean up that later. Okay, so we'll stop the migration topic now. Let's get into the new topic, which is database for today, right? We are already 30 minutes. Okay, so let's talk about databases. Any final question before we get into the new topic? Yeah.
Stan, for the real scenario, like we need to migrate some 50 or 100 servers. So the assessment will be done for not only the workloads, other network infrastructures kind of thing, right? So is there a way where we can replicate the same here? Because a lot of security groups, so many network checkpoints are there, right? So
yeah, so
those are all
that's
deeply
what.
requested.
Yeah, right. So I think on last Sunday class, I was explaining about the
No,
device
actually,
42.
okay.
Yeah, I was explaining about the device 42. You can also attend this device 42 webinars where you'll get to understand how you can have a complete data center view. You can have a 360-degree view on which system is connecting to which network device, router, and storage, all kind of information you can get it from the device 42, these kind of tools. Now, as on date, Azure Migrate does not give you a holistic view of network storage, interdependencies, database, and all. But here you have a tool which they provide you weekly free webinar. Like it's only 1 hour session on Wednesday and Thursday. You can attend this partner webinar event, and you'll be able to understand how things correlate at the backend infrastructure level. Azure is not really concerned about how those things work, but the dependency mapping and all those things. But if you want to use most of the major providers, they are all using like tools like device 42 and others. I also told you about some other tools like Cloudscape and others, right? If you look at the tools, I've given you some other tools also, discovery and assessment. You can use Cloudscape, Cloud Mapper, Atadata, Cloud Amice, Device 42, Flexera. There are many tools that are available, but Azure Migrate, these are all partner tools. Azure Migrate is highly recommending to use these tools because you can integrate and look at some of the server data from these tools directly.
Okay, yeah. Thanks, Stan. Sorry, I was
no, fine. I understand. Yeah, got it. Okay, so let me come to database if we are good there. Okay, let me mute the lines. Okay, again, generally we should start with the same story of the advantages of cloud, right? What kind of total cost of ownership we are going to have, or what is the TCO that we are going to have, right? So definitely we don't have to worry about the backend compute infrastructure. We don't have to worry about the storage. We don't have to worry about the network. So all the hardware components are maintained by Microsoft Azure, and we are by default, whatever service, like whether we are using infrastructure as a service or PaaS offering, we are going to reduce the infrastructure management burden. So day-to-day operations on the backend physical server, replacing the disk, replacing the network connections, all those things, the equipment, power, cooling, periodic maintenance of the backend data center, telecommunication equipment upgrade, heating, cooling. So all these things are already taken care of. And now, since we are talking about databases comes with multiple variant or multiple flavors in Azure platform. Okay, Azure provides you a lot of different options to use it, and I'll come to that different options that they provide. So they provide on a very high level. I'll just start with giving an example. They provide you Azure SQL DB. They provide you Azure DB for MySQL. They provide Azure DB for Postgres. Okay, MariaDB and SQL managed instance. Okay, and also you can have MS SQL on your Azure VM. Yesterday we deployed one VM at the very end of the session, right? We created a Azure VM with Microsoft SQL application database pre-installed on that. So this is the infrastructure as a service option, right? That is what we get. Even for this case, we don't have to worry about the complete infrastructure. But if you're going with these options, we need not worry about the backend infrastructure operating system also. Okay, here the VM also is maintained by Amazon. Microsoft. Okay, so here in this case, customer is responsible for OS, database, and applications configuration and upgrade all those things. But here in this case, even Microsoft will take care of OS and database version upgrade, all those things. Okay, that's the biggest advantage we are going to get. Okay, so there are these many flavors available, but this is only on the SQL databases. We also have some NoSQL and caching options available, like Azure Cache for Redis. We have got Synapse Analytics. We have got Cosmos DB tables. Okay, so when it comes to database, I've got a lot of additional sessions also available. I can provide you access to that, and you can go through that if you are really interested in more interested in database. You can go through all those sessions, and you'll get more insights. But today we'll discuss as much as possible. Okay, so now Microsoft provides you these many options just for your SQL databases. Okay, so for NoSQL, there are not only SQL, you have a lot of other options also that we will discuss a little later. But the above ones are SQL DB options. Okay, we have major classifications like SQL DB and NoSQL DB, right? Not only SQL DB. That's what NoSQL means. Okay, many people call it as NoSQL, but it means actually NoSQL, not only SQL DB. It doesn't use, it also uses SQL queries, but on beyond that, beyond SQL queries, it also uses some other querying language also, like Costo querying language or third-party querying languages. That's what it refers to here. But with SQL databases, you have these many options. You can either go for infrastructure as a service, or you can go for platform as a service. So generally, why we will go for infrastructure as a service? When the customer would like to have control on the OS and the database, then they will definitely go for this Microsoft SQL Server on Azure VM. So mostly, like if you have a existing database, or if you have an application where you are trying to rehost it, or if you are planning to do a lift and shift, then you can go and do it on the Azure virtual machine. You can directly migrate the VM by, like how we did for the server migration service now, right? Using Azure Migrate, you can just do a lift and shift, and you can completely bring that entire virtual machine to the Azure cloud platform. But if you want to modernize it, or if you want to do some kind of re-platforming, or if you want to lift, tinker and shift, or if you want to convert it to the online or the Azure cloud database, then you can select any of this option based on your source database engine, or based on your source SQL engine. So if you are using MySQL, you can select this option. If you are using Postgres, if you are using MariaDB, you can come here onto this platform. For example, it's not that you have to do like for like. Even it supports homogeneous and heterogeneous migration, meaning you can also migrate from Postgres to Postgres, from on-prem Postgres to cloud Postgres, or you can also use Oracle to Postgres also. You can do heterogeneous migration. You can convert from Oracle workload to Postgres. Microsoft does not provide you direct Oracle workload option. They have a direct connect with Oracle data center, and they provide you OCA option, and they provide you direct access on the Oracle data center. But if you want to run your if you want to run your Oracle databases in Azure platform, they generally recommend you to convert it to PostgreSQL. That is the general recommendation that they provide. So this is a fully ready enterprise ready database which can be used for your application. This has all the benefits. Okay, whatever benefits we talk about, right? Scalability, it can automatically increase the capacity. It has got encryption, security, all such thing, and it is a fully managed service. That's the important thing. You don't have to worry about the backend OS. You don't have to worry about the backend database engine. You don't have to worry about the complete infrastructure, right? So you have a lot of options. We'll discuss these options shortly. But before getting into that level of discussion, I just want to highlight a few more things. One second. On the total cost of ownership, we can just quickly, one second, let me close the screen. A lot of unwanted screens here. Okay, yeah. Also, what is the other advantage we can highlight? We can also highlight about the licensing, right? Licensing can also be brought into the cloud. You can bring your own license if you have existing licenses. That is another thing. And most of the cost we are saving here is on the maintenance of your hardware, firmware, drivers, BIOS, operating system, disk, software, antivirus. So all these things end up paying a lot of licenses, right? You need to back up your data also. So all these things are readily available. Maintenance is just one word, but it covers a lot of things, right? So hardware, firmware, drivers, your hardware BIOS, your operating system, software, antivirus, anti-malware, or any kind of thing, a lot of things, right? So you get a lot of maintenance thing, and also you don't have to worry about the labor cost involved. So if you want to change the hardware, if you want to upgrade the hardware, if you want to upgrade the operating system, so all these things are taken care of, right? The labor cost is reduced, and you also get all the cloud benefits like scalability, security, availability. You get best in class availability. By default, you get highly redundant, highly available backend systems, so that there is no single point of failure. Also, also Microsoft supports multiple language options. You can go and change the languages for the database backend. It supports the lot of different collation or the backend language selection. So at the end, what we are trying to highlight here is we are saving a lot of cost in terms of reducing the overhead of patching, maintenance, upgrade, replacement, physical hardware, and OS maintenance. That is what I'm trying to convey here. So this is applicable for every platform as a service that we are going to discuss, right? For every platform as a service, this particular benefit will come into place. I just want to highly summarize it just to make sure that you guys understand it. So we are not taking care of any of these things. All these things comes as a service. Okay. So now coming to the data classification, like when we started a couple of weeks back, we talked about structured, unstructured, and all those things, right? We started with unstructured data, and we completed the storage class where we talked about object storage and how to use the Azure Blob to store the content and so on. But now, whatever topic that we are going to discuss today is coming under the structured data category. Structured data means it has got a predefined structure. It has got a predefined schema, table, and we go and define it, right? So yesterday also, when we started the database creation or when we started the table creation, we were asked to provide the schema first, meaning it asked me what are the different columns we have, what are the characters it should accept, or it should accept any integers or whatever. So we are going and predefining the schema for the table and the database, so that you can add the data or insert the data or append the data as and when there is a new booking happening or new cancellation going on or whatever. Based on that, this database will get all the uh, uh, changes and all those things. So we have 4 different categories of data, but we are going to focus more on structured data now. So the other categories are semi-structured, which is like your XML, JSON file, email, all those things. And we have quasi-structured, which is nothing, your blogs and chats, tweets, all those things. Okay, but we are going to focus on structured data now. When it comes to structured data, there is a wide range of products that are available, and the most used product as on date is either Oracle or Microsoft SQL. These are the 2 widely used products. But besides that, we have got MySQL, you've got PostgreSQL, which are currently used in a lot of VMware environment and so on. And we have got Netezza, we have got Teradata, we have got lot of things. Even the SAP platform, it is also a SQL kind of database. Only the SAP ERM, CRM, all these things are a kind of classification that I would say it comes under the structured data category. Okay, even though it is not the direct SQL concept, but it is again falls under the structured data category. Even you can consider Sybase and your MS Access also is kind of a structured data where you go and predefine the schema. Wherever we are predefining the schema, that can be considered into the database category or structured database category, right? Structured data category. And uh, some people get confused with the term RDBMS, right? Relational Database Management Service. So this is the software for relational databases. Okay, so any software that you use for holding the data for relational DB, you can call that as Relational Database Management System or RDBMS system. What exactly Relational DB is? Relational DB is the database that will go and store the data that are related to each other, or they are related to each other, right? DB that stores actual information about the data and the related information, right? So see, I mean, I think last week or when we started with the data, I was explaining a simple example, right? So when we say relational database, you will have multiple tables linked together. Okay, you'll have table 1, table 2, and multiple things. And maybe the table 1 will have, okay, let's just try to see, like, this is a weekend, right? And I know I'm um, taking most of your time and you guys are not spending enough time with family. But see, if you go and look here, it gives you a table now. So this cities is a table, and if I go and select Chennai, then Chennai will have a link to another table that will give me the list of movies running there. And if I select that particular movie, it will give me another table that will have which are the theaters or which are the cinemas that are running it. So it has kind of lot of different tables that are linked together that will display the information, and it will have a kind of concept called primary key, foreign key, that will have a backend link that will go and automatically connect you to different tables and list down the information there. Okay, so these tables are interrelated or interlinked. So it will have a kind of indexing concept. It will have a kind of foreign key, primary key concept. For each of the table, we'll have a primary key, and if it refers to some other table, that will be referenced as a foreign key, and you'll have links, joins, and all those things. Okay, so a lot of people might have heard about these terms, but I don't want to get too much into the database technology. But what happens here is, whenever you want to store some structured data, we go and predefine the schema. That is the main thing. Okay, first thing is to predefine the schema before you go and store the data. That is why we call it a structured data. It should follow that particular structure. If you are going and entering the data under the name, it should follow that. It should have the only characters with 10 or like 15 or whatever characters we have defined. Okay, so that is what is predefining here. So we'll go and predefine it and we'll start using it. Okay, so let's talk about some other additional information here. Okay, 1 second. Any questions from anyone so far? Okay, let me just, have you guys heard about this primary key, foreign key and all? Any idea? Okay, very simple. Okay, don't know, I mean, don't get too much carried away with these terms. Okay, so in a table you'll have a primary key. Primary key is the main unique identifier, of a record, or I would say uniquely identify the table or records in a table. Okay, and foreign key is nothing but it's a field in a table that is primary on another table. Okay, that's why it is called foreign key. There is an entry, but that entry is referencing to a primary key in different table, the second table or the other table which I'm going to connect. So the relationships are maintained between primary key in one table and the foreign key in another table. So foreign key is a key that is used to link two tables together. Okay, this is sometimes called as, some people if they are from different database background, they also call it as referencing key, or instead of foreign key they call it as referencing key. So foreign key links two different table. Primary key is the table which references that particular table. It's a unique identifier. Okay, so primary key uniquely identifies each row record in a database table. Foreign key refers to rows records in another database table. So indexing will help you to create retrieve data in a very quick way. Okay, everyone understands indexing, right? If you're from a backup background, a backup catalog will always get indexed so that you can go and quickly retrieve the data or restore the data. So indexing is to create and make the data easily retrievable or quicker access. Okay, then what else? Okay, I'll come to the roles and responsibilities of database engineer. So they generally, like, database engineer does something called normalization. I'll come to that part shortly. But before getting into the actual database concept, some people are starting to use something called big data and all those things, right? So some people get confused, what is data and what is big data, right? So in simple terms, I would say big data stands for large amount of data or large volumes of data. Okay, if you're dealing with large volume of data, then you can just consume that, I mean, consider that as a big data, right? So a lot of people have this doubt. So whether big data always refers to structured data? No, it is not that. It could be structured or unstructured data, or it could be both of them combined together. So big data is combination of data, and where we are talking about huge volume of data or large volume of data. Okay, it's not about the amount of data, but what business do with the given data that counts. Okay, so if you are having lot of data but that doesn't make any sense, then it's of no use. But the data, that whatever you are collecting, it should help businesses to sustain, or businesses to go beyond what they are currently doing today. Okay, so that's where people go and collect all the big data. So businesses leverage on the big data for getting business insight. Okay, how their business is performing, how much sales they are doing in Asia market, how they are doing it in EMEA market, sorry, Europe market, or how they are doing it in America's market, and which product is getting sold in the particular market, which products we can deprecate, or which product we can stop in which region, and so on. So the data, whatever they are collecting, it should help them to improve their business. It should help them to get the business insight quickly, so that they can send the stock from one region to another region to make sure the stock is kept in the region where the sales is happening properly, or where exactly the sales is working out properly, right? So business insight is always to increase their growth or propel their growth. So whatever we are data that we have, it should help enable the business to grow higher, or help them grow bigger. So everyone understands that there is a huge incline in the social data, right? Or the social networking sites has jumped like 5 times since the pandemic, right? So YouTube has started having 700 hours of new video each minute of every day. Okay, it was like around 150 or 200 hours in 2012 or 2013. Now every hour we are getting 700 hours of new video every minute of every day. And similarly, like, there are 10 times or 12 times the users who are watching those videos has increased now, after all the internet connectivity or sophisticated bandwidth. Now people watching it is also has increased, and Instagram is uploading around I mean, it's like billions of posts are getting uploaded every minute. Google searches are done like 20 times or 30 times higher than earlier. Facebook is kind of sending messages many times. Okay, I would say at least 30 times higher than before. Walmart online transactions has increased. Many people are purchasing from home. No one is going to supermarket or nothing like that. So now every industry, okay, every online industry, either it is YouTube or Instagram or Facebook or Walmart or any industry for that matter, everyone have started ordering food and ordering groceries. Everything is happening online now. So all the data is getting accumulated, and based on the data, the business has to retrieve some meaningful insight. They have to understand what kind of materials are being purchased in South India, what kind of materials are being purchased in North India, so that they can have their respective stocks in particular region. They can go and have it locally in that particular city, so that they can deliver it quicker and faster, right? So that is what the big data is all about. Big data is large amount of data which tells you about how the business is happening, what kind of sales is happening, how people are purchasing the product, which products are getting sold in which region, so that you can get some kind of analytic data or analysis, so that you can get some enhancement in how you operate. So big data has no direct relationship with structured data, but big data is large volume of data. It can be semi-structured, or it can be structured data, or it can be unstructured data also. We are just dealing with huge amount of data. You'll go and do a lot of analytical operations, or what you call like machine learning and so on, to get business insight. I'll come back to this point again. I'll come back to big data again. I just want to highlight that data and big data need not be exactly the same. Data can be multiple categories like structured, unstructured, semi-structured, and quasi-structured. Big data is actually again combination of all of those data in large volume, in huge volume, I would say. Okay. So now with that said, let's understand quickly about one another important topic called OLTP versus OLAP. Okay, many people talk about online transaction processing and online analytical processing. So these are the two fancy terms or two words that we are hearing very frequently these days. After all, the online portal, online websites become a huge success. We are hearing a lot of terms, I mean, a lot of OLAP and OLTP these days. Okay, any idea from anyone what exactly OLAP and OLTP stands for? What are these two applications? So your applications can be either grouped into OLTP application or OLAP application. Any idea what exactly OLTP is all about and OLAP all about? Let me take some water meanwhile. Any question, any insight? Okay. Okay, that's fine. Okay, see, from the name itself, you can understand that this is transaction processing system. This is analytics processing system. So transaction can be anything, right? It could be financial, or it could be online booking, or it can be whatever. Like it can be sending, just moving money from one account to another account. Okay, so move money from one account to another account, or it can be like tracking a payment, or it can be sending a good from one location to another location, or you can just respond to a customer's query. So everything is a transaction, right? So transaction can be financial, or booking activity, or it can be whatever, right? So everything, every single unit is called as a transaction. Transaction, you can think about that as a small discrete unit of work. Okay, so even if you are responding back to an email, that is again a transaction. You are completing a interaction there. So the small discrete unit of work, I would say. Okay, so any transactional system, or like any OLTP application transaction system, will record the transaction. It will keep track of what is happening, what is being transacted there. Okay, transaction system is often what most people consider the primary reason for business computing. So current businesses will always run based on the OLTP application. The live business currently is happening using the business computing of OLTP application. So OLAP is historical information. We are not talking about the current live stuff, but the live stuff is happening on the OLTP application. OLTP is current actual things happening. See, when you're going and booking a ticket, it is going and updating the OLTP application or database on the back end. And if you're going and sending money, you are going and updating that this money has to be transferred to this particular account in this particular bank. Okay, it is all live transaction. We are talking about what is happening currently. Okay, transactional system always deal with high volume, many millions of transaction in a single minute or single second. Okay, it will be like huge volumes, right? It will be very high volume, and we'll see a lot of many millions of transactions happening. And see, if you talk about the time now, there will in few minutes the Takal booking will start, right? So automatically there will be millions of transactions happening across the globe, right? Many people will be booking from south to north, north to south, or maybe from one location to another location. A lot of people will be transacting money, and month beginning, too many accounts will get transferred between, I mean, money will be getting transferred between a lot of different accounts. So there will be millions of transactions in a particular minute or a second. Depends on date. It depends on the time we are talking about. Okay, the data being processed has to be accessible very quickly. And in order to be made accessible quickly, that is where the structured data comes into picture. That is where the structurization comes into picture. That is where the structured database comes as a handy backend system. Okay, in order to support fast transactions or fast processing, your data has to be very streamlined. It has to be following a particular schema. It has to be well organized. Okay, that's how the application can go and quickly retrieve the data, right? So whenever you think about OLTP processing or OLTP application, on the backend, mostly the structured database will be what it will be used. Okay, so always, like, we are talking about the current operational data, or we are talking about the live business data, what is currently going on. So it's not about historical, it's about current fundamental business task, currently what is happening. Okay, here we'll have a large amount or huge volume of data in a very short time frame, in a very small, short activity. So database is the backend in most of the cases. Okay, so this involves backend data, and the other area, like the analytical system. Any idea, like any insights on analytical system? I think I've given a hint already, but I'm just trying to see if you guys are hearing me, or I just looking for some yes or no answers.
Maybe Stan,
Yeah.
even when you are booking for an IRCTC ticket, no, so
Mhm.
there are many options are given. Most likely it will
Uh-huh.
get confirmed. So those kind of data, is it for analytic purpose based on the past history, giving recommendations, that kind of data?
Yeah, so Venkatesh is right. So I mean, he has answered it on the chat. So you are almost right, but the thing is, it's the last statement is correct. We are talking about the historical data, or the old information, not the live information. Okay, so analysis is going to happen only after the transaction is completed. Okay, only after people has completed the transaction, so then we can go and take a decision where exactly we should have good amount of funding, which ATM should be having a lot of funding, or which region we should have more trains, or which region is highly demanding. Okay, so based on the historical transaction, based on the historical information, this analytical system will help you to get a big picture view of the business, and it will help you to take decisions. Okay, so analytical system, I would say, is actually designed to query data, huge volume of data, and gain insight about what's going on, or, like, I would say, gain big picture view on what is happening on the overall organization or system. And it will help you to design, it is designed to support the business. Okay, it supports the business to improve or to enhance. Okay, so analytical system is mainly to do analysis, to do a systematic um, systematic analysis again. Okay, so it is capturing all the information, and it is giving you insight. It is going to generate business insight, where exactly you need more ATM, or where exactly you need more trains, or where exactly we need to have more funding. So it will help you to make proper business decision. Okay, that is what this is going to help you. Okay, So I mean, it's not. I mean, I'm mostly taking financial, right? It's not about financial. Even if you take, for example, manufacturing company, you can think about where exactly the particular product is heavily purchased, or which region is looking for that model, where exactly people are interested in such a design, right? So the manufacturing organization can automatically take decision for India region. This is how people are expecting their vehicle to be, so that they can take a decision on how to manufacture, what exactly to focus, whether they need to focus more on the design or outer view, or what exactly they need to look at, whether they are looking at the diesel version or the electric version, or whatever exactly, right? The product line also can be improved based on the decision making. So not just financial, right? Even the manufacturing or automotive industry, everyone can get data, and they can change their business focus and increase profitability at the end. And anyone who is doing business, they want to make more profit, they want to get better outcome, right? So that's where the OLAP applications or OLAP system will come into picture. So OLAP will deal with high volume of data, huge volume of data. Okay, but that is different from high volume of data. Okay, so people might get slightly confused. So here we are talking about 1,000 tickets getting booked in a second, in a sub-second. Okay, here we are talking about going and analyzing 100 terabytes of data, 100 petabytes of data. That is different, this is different. Okay, huge volume is different in terms of data, high volumes is different in terms of transaction. Okay, we'll have multiple transactions happening in a sub-second. Similarly, there will be a lot of fast processing happening. See, if you're talking about sending money, it happens in a second, right? And whereas in the other side, in OLAP, it will be a long running query. Okay, it will be running for maybe 20 minutes or 1 hour. Some queries can run for a day or more also. Okay, so it will be very slow. Okay, this is like very quick in terms of completion of the transaction, whereas the query that we have written, it might go and take data from huge volume, and it will go and get the data. Here we are talking about touching a particular table. We are going and inserting that I have booked this particular seat in this particular coach, or I have booked the ticket in this particular cinema in that particular seat layout, or it's like sending money from one account to another account, removing the balance from one account to another account. So it's like a small transaction happening, many things. And OLAP application, I would say, like, sorry, OLTP application, if I'm going and running a query, who bought this X model TV in this showroom? This is a straightforward query, right? This can be answered in a just a second there. Okay, even if I go and ask, like, what is my last 3 months transaction statement, it will be able to provide in a minute or two. But if I'm going and asking what is the last 10 years transaction, or what is the highest amount that I have transferred in the last few years, or what is the how many people bought the X model TV in Asia region? Okay, how many people bought this particular model product in the complete global region? So you might not be able to get the data from one particular provider. The reason is mostly Asia might be using they might be using some kind of databases, or they might be using Excel sheets also to take the or store the information of the sales and all those things. Some region they might be using Oracle, some might be using Access. So we have to normalize them, we have to bring them together into a format and analyze them. It's not like very easy. The OLAP processing, it is like we have to bring all the big data into one particular common umbrella, and you have to analyze it, or you have to kind of get the insight about it. Okay, so OLAP always helps you with decision making. I would say it is like helps you with business decision making. And I mean, based on my example, you might have understood that this is like OLAP is generally based on the subject. We are talking about a particular subject here, but here we are talking about an application, what's going on, or online movie ticket application, or we are talking about a train ticket system, or we are talking about a particular application. Here we are not talking about an application, but we are talking about business. We are talking about subject there. Okay, we are talking about how to improve the business, how to add more sales in this particular region. So we are talking about knowledge worker on the back end, or we are talking about subject oriented discussion. Here, with OLAP, there will be a lot of scans that are happening. It will be like in a millisecond. It will go and do a lot of data analysis. It will go and do a lot of scans. But here, it will be a short, small insert, modification, deletion. It can be read, write. Someone will go and cancel the ticket. Someone will go and book the ticket. Someone will go and modify it. So it will be like read, modify, write, or whatever, right? It will be very short transactions, but it can be any different thing. Here we are going only scanning the data. We are going and reading the data mostly. We are going and getting insight there. Okay, and this one OLTP, it is a repetitive process. Today, someone will be booking tickets for one location to another location. Someone will be doing it for tomorrow. Someone will be doing it for next month, or it is a repetitive process. OLTP, it will happen continuously the same way. The usage pattern is repetitive in nature, whereas the OLAP, it's ad hoc based. Like today, you'll run a report. Maybe the next report you might take it only after 2 months or 3 months. Like it depends on what kind of decision making you're trying to do. Here we are talking about millions and millions of data and record. Okay, and the query throughput and the response, like you want answer, but it need not be as fast as the OLTP. But if the transaction making or the transaction completion is taking a lot of time, then people will be not satisfied. But OLAP, here the transaction can happen, it's take its own time. Maybe it can run it for 12 hours or 24 hours. For them, they need the quality output, quality data. So this data online analytical processing application, it will run for a longer time. Okay, so this is a very high level comparison. Okay, and I'll come back to one more important aspect here. See, the data actually travels in different mode. So I'm just giving some high level example, but it will get ingested and transformed and queried in a different way. Okay, so if you look at here, I'll just give you a kind of quick um, view on what I'm talking about. See, someone will go and purchase it through online. Some will go and purchase it on a direct shop. Someone will go and do it in a point of sale location. They will go and swipe it and do it. And at the end, all these data are coming and updating the database or application, the repository where exactly we are storing the data. Once after the data is stored here, okay, it has to go to another repository where it will go and transform the data, because like not all the locations will have the exact same thing. So data is getting ingested, data is getting transformed, and then only it will be available for querying and visualization, okay, or accessing and visualization. So this is like a multi-folded activity. A lot of people think like it is one step, but it is not actually one step. Data will be coming from a lot of different sources. The sales might be happening in a point of sales equipment, or it might be happening in a front office, or it might be happening in some symposium or some kind of expo. It might be coming from different ingestion method, and then the data has to be stored. So this is the OLTP application is one of the data storage location, and once the data is stored, then the data has to get transformed. You cannot directly go and consume it. Before you go and consume it, the data has to be transformed. Then we can query the data, then we can visualize the data. So always there are some 4 or 5 steps involved in a particular data. That is what people call it as ETL job, or extract, transform, and load job. We are extracting the data, we are transforming the data, and we are loading and viewing in the data. So there are a lot of application which will do all the extract, transform, and load. Okay, so many people might have heard about the ETL jobs and all, right? So generally the data will go through extraction, transformation, and loading. There are many other modern application which comes with more options like visualization and so on. So you guys are able to follow me here, right? What I'm talking about. See, if you want to visualize, you have to query the data before visualizing. Before querying the data has to be transformed and put in a way it is easier for querying and getting the report. So if you want to do a trend analysis or pattern analysis, or if you want to take a report, or if you want to do a root cause analysis, your data should have to be transformed and put in a way that is easy for querying. Okay, so before querying, it has to be transformed. Before, if I want to transform, you have to store it in a common location. So it is all chained together, it is all interlinked together. Okay, I'll just come to that later, but for now, on a very high level, you need to understand what exactly OLTP is used for, or what exactly OLAP is used for. Okay, are we clear? Can we move on to the next topic? or next comparison. So OLTP is always real-time writes and updates and all those things. Okay, it's maybe money transfer, filling a form, registering a course, ticket booking, whatever. Okay, and now let's compare SQL versus NoSQL. I know like a lot of theory, but these are all something which you should have as a fundamental knowledge. Okay, so SQL, structured querying language, not only structured querying language. So many people call this as NoSQL, but it is in fact not only SQL. Okay, it uses SQL querying language and much more beyond that. That's what it refers to. So SQL is actually a relational database, or it's a relational type of database, right? Whereas this one, it doesn't have to be relational. It can be non-relational also. They're not only SQL. Here with SQL, it is connecting to the structured data which we talked about. For SQL, it has to be structured data. It has to be stored in a table format and so on. Here it is a unstructured, I would say, or it is a semi-structured, I would say. Semi-structured data. It can be stored in JSON file. It can be stored in email. It can be stored in XML file or whatever, right? It can be in many different file format. It can be a graph database and so on. Here, the data or the backend schema is static. We go and define the schema first, and then we store the data. Here, we will go and store the data on the fly. You can just go and enter a name tag and enter the value for that. It will go and add additional entry, and you can put whatever data. The schema is not rigid. The schema is not static in case of not only SQL. Okay, and here mostly we will be doing a vertical scaling. The SQL databases, you know, right? There is a lot of complication in terms of licensing, the backend hardware and all those things. So when you want to scale it up or when you want to increase, we go and do a vertical scaling, or we'll go and add more compute power or memory or storage or network. But the not only SQL database systems, it can be horizontally scaled. It can go and add more servers because it is not very highly tied with licensing or any kind of complexity, right? So here we use structured querying language for accessing the data. Here we not only use SQL, we will also use KQL, unstructured querying language, a lot of different things. Here, the SQL will have, as I told you, it will have a lot of links, tables, and all those things, joins, and so on. Okay, so that is very common here: links, joins, foreign table, foreign key, primary key, and all those things. Here, in NoSQL, there won't be a lot of joins, or there won't be kind of interfaces to go and link multiple tables. They will independently get stored, and they will be independent to each other. But you can go and get the data, retrieve the data. So here, the important point that I'm going to make is SQL databases are heavily used for OLTP application. Not only SQL are heavily used for it's like less likely considered for it can be used. Okay, I'm not saying it cannot be used. It's less likely to be considered for OLTP application. Okay, it can be heavily used for your OLAP applications. It's a first choice for your OLAP. Okay, and supportability, you get a lot of support from the provider because Microsoft, Oracle, there are big names behind the SQL databases, right? So you get a lot of vendor support, you get a lot of big company support here, right? So whereas when you compare to not only SQL comes with various platform. It comes with community, or it's like all community dependent. If the community people is very active and they are providing you support, and if they are actively coming up with newer versions and bug fixes and so on, then not only SQL can be a good stuff. Okay, here I would say, like we already talked about the rigid schema and all those things, and there is a concept called acid property and cap theorem. I'll come to that later. I don't want to confuse you guys on what exactly acid theorem and all those things, but I'll try to abbreviate it now for now. It's okay. In SQL database, the atomicity is very important. The data consistency is very important, and it has to be it has to have proper security, isolation, and durability. So these four properties are very important for a database content or the content that you are storing in a SQL database, but it is not as important as in NoSQL. The CAP theorem is a little different, so it also considers about the consistency and all those things, but it need not be as consistent as SQL database. SQL database are business critical data. We are currently dealing with the financial system or the marketing and all those things, so it has to follow the ACID transaction property. And here, whenever you want to make some changes or whenever you want to do some changes, lot of downtime is needed, okay, because of the way that the schema and the system is built, okay, requires downtime for most use cases or for most changes. You need to go and take downtime. So here, not only SQL, it is very automatic. You never, not even a single outage I would think is needed, okay, no outage required mostly, okay, and most of the changes will happen automatically on your system. Okay, so now you can relate SQL with OLTP. No, not only SQL with OLAP kind of, you can just relate it something, they are very closer to each other. Okay, SQL is mostly the RDBMS system, the relational database management system. And okay, sorry, RDBMS system. Okay, so this can be used for storing the data and querying the data. The schema is rigid and the entire database needs to be changed in case of any changes you want to make, because the schema is the problem. Okay, so if you want to make changes to your schema, the flexibility is very, very less in the SQL databases. But if you compare it with not only SQL, they are dynamic in nature. That it doesn't have any schema or nothing on the back end common. So you can just go and add rows, columns. It can be empty columns. It can have data, or it need not have data in the not only SQL concept. But here, if the data is empty or if the row is empty, it will not allow you. It has to follow some specific procedures. Only if these particular columns are filled in, only then it will allow you to save, or it will allow you to insert. Okay, so that is the problem with what you call the SQL concept. But in not only SQL, it helps you with going beyond the regular format. So I've told you about the example on the types for not only SQL, right? When we started the data class, I talked about the key value pair, JSON format, or even Active Directory is something similar. Key value format is what you store, right? You go and put the first name, last name, city, username, password, all those things, right? It's getting stored in key value format. And there is something called document DB. There are, I mean, we are not going to focus more on not only SQL now, but we are going to focus more into structured querying language. Just for comparison purpose, I'm just giving some data. Okay, I'm not going to get too much deep into it. There are many more. Okay, white column store database. There are a lot of other things also available. So if you ask me examples like the MongoDB, the Cassandra database, DynamoDB, so these are all example of not only SQL. Okay, CouchDB, there are many more. Okay, there are 100 more, I would say. Okay, so where exactly these not only SQL are heavily used? Any idea? No idea? So most of the modern application, these companies like Facebook, Google, Amazon, so these are the people who mostly use this not only SQL concept, the social networking sites, the modern applications. But if you talk about the traditional application, the traditional businesses, all operate using the SQL databases only. So here, the not only SQL is mainly used in the social networking and the modern application where you have a kind of large serialized operations. So here, the concept itself is little different, right? So I would say the CAP theorem, maybe I'll just complete this part. Consistency, availability. It has to be available. It need not be available like your SQL database. That's the different thing here. So partition tolerance. So not only SQL, it follows the CAP theorem. So the data has to be consistent, but it need not be as consistent as SQL. See, for example, if someone is writing a blog in India, the people in the US need not see it immediately, but it has to be consistent in after 5 minutes or 10 minutes. So someone is doing a tweet in India, so maybe it will take a minute or two to go and replicate it into the other region, Europe region, or whatever. So in social networking and all those modern application, it's not like your SQL concept. In financial industry, whatever the person that we are seeing. For example, if in India you are seeing the balance like this much amount, even in the other region also they should see the same exact amount. So the consistency plays a very, very important role, and the durability is very important when it comes to SQL. But here in not only SQL, those things are not very, very important, but ideally, like eventually it has to be consistent in a particular time. Okay, so chatting, the forum, the blogs, those things, all the community sites, all these things are good examples of not only SQL. Okay, so with that said, I'll also quickly compare one more topic before we get into the practical. I know we are talking too much here. Okay, let me give one quick comparison and we'll get into the practical session. Okay, let's understand the difference between database and data warehouse. Any idea from anyone on this particular topic? Have you heard about database and data warehouse? What exactly is the difference? Okay, let me complete it. Okay, so it's organized collection of related data. I would say we have been discussing that, right? So database, SQL, RDBMS, and OLTP. So database, SQL, OLTP, and RDBMS. These four are closely related terms. Similarly, data warehouse, not only SQL, OLAP, these are all closely related terms. Okay, so here data warehouse is more about consolidated data from multiple systems. It can be from multiple databases also, I would say. Okay, here we are talking about the data which is already summarized. We are talking about the location where the data will get processed, data warehouse. It is not about data, the live data storing. We are talking about the summarized data. We are talking about the data which is already consolidated and kind of put in here. So databases already, you know, like it will be kind of a tabular data or it will be in a tabular format, and you're going the data here. But here in database, you should have the detailed information there. Okay, who booked it, when they booked it, or how they booked it, whether they did it using a point of sales, or whether they booked it in online application, or whether they went to the regular counter and booked it. So all kind of detailed information should be here. Here we are having only the summarized data. On particular date, how many people booked the ticket, how many transactions happened in a particular minute. So such a kind of summarized data will be used in the data warehouse. Here we are always talking about OLTP. Here we are talking about OLAP, right? Online analytical processing. Okay, so database is needed to run the business now. This is for running the current operations. Okay, this is the fundamental backend for your business application. So if the database down, your business will get impacted, your app operations will stop. But here data warehouse, we are not talking about the current business, but we are analyzing the data and getting the business insight. We are talking about how to perform better. As I told you, you can take some points from here, maybe like I would say like application oriented, subject oriented. So we can take some points. We are again comparing the same similar related things only. Here we are talking about the tables, links, joins, primary key, foreign key. We are inserting and writing more data. Here we are talking about current data. We are talking about concurrent sessions. Many people will be connected to the database and making transactions. There will be multiple people will be booking ticket on the same train, on the same theater, same movies. Usually it is tied to a single app. Okay, usually it is tied to a single app, usually, but not always. Usually, okay, so application will be connecting to database. You'll have one application talking to one database. There will be a set of records that will be modified at the single point of time. Here we are talking about lot of different application. Here we are talking about a lot of historical data, not live data. Here we are talking about historical information. What happened last year, what happened last month, what happened the entire month. That is what we are talking about here in this case. Okay, so database is different. Database is where we go and actually store the current business live data. But data warehouse is where we go and store the data and process it, retrieve it. Here there will be a lot of read, retrieve, access, scan. That is what will happen. Okay, there is nothing called writing or modifying or whatever. The information is coming out, the information is getting out. Here the information is going in, who booked it, who canceled it, who modified it. So that's what it is all about. Okay. So with that said, let me just jump over to the actual practical sessions. And any questions before we get inside that? In the recent past, many people are talking about database administrator, data engineer, data analyst, and so on, right? Any idea, like anyone have clarity on that? Can some of you help me out understanding what is the difference between these people? Am I audible? What is the difference between database
Yeah,
administrator, data engineer,
yes,
data analyst? Yeah.
so different roles for
Mm-hmm.
different data types, because
Mm-hmm.
the data are growing, and we are seeing a lot of different kinds of data, and also
Right.
requires the analytics from the
Mm.
database standpoint,
Yeah.
which is not needed. So just doing background work.
Okay. Yeah. See, as a person, maybe like if you're not a very senior person, I think Ganesh and others, like many of you here, you're all very senior people, meaning you have 10, 15, 20 years of experience, right? So you cannot go and pick up a functional area now, or you need not go and get specialized into a functional area. Functional area meaning, you see, these are all functional areas, right? So I would say see, we are studying cloud one side, and on the other side, we can also choose like functional area like AI, ML, IoT. So there are a lot of hundreds and hundreds of functional area, right, on which we can choose and get specialized. So earlier, people will get into network specialty or what do you call security specialty. These are the things most of the systems administrator will take it as a functional area, right? But nowadays, the functional areas are very high. Many new analytics, data, AI, ML. There are huge different opportunities now, unlike before. So studying cloud is one side. On the other side, you should also take a parallel track. That's why you are seeing a lot of PG programs or a lot of universities offering analytics, data, AI, ML, IoT, right? So you should also choose some functional area which you are good in, and you can also start exploring that. So that's why I was asking, like there are a lot of different roles. Even if you talk about function, data, there are different roles, right? So there are people who work day in day out on a database. They are called as database administrator. And similarly, we have people who work on just data. There are people who just work on analytics, or they are doing only analysis on the data uh, or the information. So they are closely related, but the role is completely different. The responsibility is completely different. Okay, I'll just quickly try to summarize it because we have 10 more minutes before the break. So see, as a database administrator, I will maybe call out something instead of typing too much. So they will go and install the database. They will go and upgrade the database. They will go and modify the schema. They will go and allocate the capacity that they need for storing the database. They will go and modify the database structure. They will go and help application teams connect to the database. They will give you the string to connect using the ODBC or whatever string. So they will go and add additional users in the database. They will go and give permissions. They will go and monitor the database. They will control the access database. They will look on the licensing. They will monitor the database. They will perform the optimization on the database, right? So their work is to make sure the database is safe and secure. They will make sure whether it is properly secured. Only the people who should have access is having access, taking backup of the database, contacting the application team and asking for whether the performance is up to the expectation. And they will also do something called normalization. Normalization is to improve the indexing or to help application access the data quickly. Okay, so if you ask me what is the database administrator role, they will be looking on the day-to-day aspects on database monitoring, upgrading the database version, um, reporting, taking some report, taking backup, working with application team, working with end users, all those things. Okay, that is the database administrator role. But data engineer, they are all going and looking at the data. They are developing the processes to find out ways on how you can retrieve data from a database or unstructured data, or from a semi-structured data. They are a programmer kind of thing. They need to have some kind of good knowledge on programming, and maybe I would say they should have some querying skill set where they can go and retrieve the data. Here we are talking about doing research there. Okay, data engineer will go and run some business processing queries, or they will go and use the data to discover something and provide it for further modeling or provide it for further transformation, right? So data engineer, they will deal with the data architecture, whether the business application is using the right type of database on the back end, or whether they are using the right type of storage on the back end, what kind of mechanisms the current application is going through, whether there is any performance impact, whether the efficiency is good, whether the quality of output is good, whether the data is really reliable. So they will look into the data. The data engineer will be engineering team on the data level, but analyst is something beyond that. So they will go and run some queries, they will create chart, they will create graphs, they will create histograms, they will provide a view for the business leaders, okay, for the CEOs and CAOs. The data analyst will provide information. They will say that based on our analysis, this is what is happening across the globe. So India is making this much profit, EMEA is making this much profit, and we are going through a lot of loss here because of this much this kind of pattern. So they will go and help you identify the hidden pattern behind the data. So their work is to come up with visualization, come up with easily consumable data. The data analyst will make sure, see, the CEO will not have time to go and look into each and every line of code or event or log, right? So they want someone to help them visualize, view the model. So the visual model, either it is in a chart format or in a pivot format or a graph format or a histogram format, or it is providing a geographical map format, at the end they want to see the data and help take good decisions on how to improve the business. So ideally they will go and do some kind of pattern analysis, trend analysis, and they will go and get the hidden pattern behind the data. Okay, all data are meaningful. Most of the data whatever we have will have a lot of meaningful insight. That meaningful insight should have to be brought out. Okay, so even we are talking about weather analysis or the pattern analysis, right? What exactly is happening, the data analysis will tell, like looking at the pattern, current pattern, this month will have a lot of weather or a lot of heat, the climate will be reaching this particular temperature, all those things, right? So the data analyst work is something completely different. They deal with Power BI, they deal with different tool sets, graphical dashboard tools, Excel, whatever, right? But different people deal with different tools. Okay, database administrator, they will be dealing with Oracle databases, Microsoft SQL databases, PostgreSQL databases, or SAP or Teradata or whatever. But these people are dealing with different tools that they use Power BI and all those things. So these people, they will be using tools like Python or HiveQL or R, or they will be using data to, I mean, they will be using tools to program and query the data. They will go and use tools for manipulating the data. So different people use different tools. Their roles and responsibilities are completely different, but they are all dealing with data. That is the only common thing between these people. Okay, but they have to learn different skills, different tools, different technologies in order to be good at what they are doing. Okay, so this is where I feel like people have to get a proper understanding, and they can choose any of the functional areas after the cloud. I'm talking about, I'm not talking about along with cloud. Once you are familiar with one or two cloud environment, then you can go and choose a functional area. This is for people who are from years of experience 3 to 10. Okay, so they can choose a functional area. If you are beyond 8 and 10 years of experience, then you can understand about it, but it's not going to be of any help to get too much deep inside it, because you have to become a DevOps engineer, or you have to become a architect, or you have to become a solution architect or enterprise architect. That should be your plan forward. Okay, so anyone have any questions on that? I know I voiced out a lot, but I know I don't want to get too much into the roles and responsibilities of that particular three areas, but everything has got a lot of different roles and responsibilities. We have got different at least 10 different things in data, 10 different roles and responsibilities in AI, similarly on other areas, right? So we are going to take a break now, and when we come back, we'll get into the Azure database options, and we'll see what are the different options we can go and create. We'll also understand what are the different purchasing model available in Azure platform. Okay, we'll get into the actual Azure database now. So these are all some prerequisite information or the knowledge which you should possess before you get into the Azure databases. Okay, any questions before we start the timer? Okay, I'll take that as no and stop the recording. Okay.
This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, sorry for the delay. Let's resume the session now. Okay, now let's talk about the different options that we get in Azure SQL. Okay, so whatever technology or whatever things that you want to understand the different options, I'll just give you some easier way to get inside that. See, when you go and search for just SQL or Azure SQL, you will start getting all the different flavors. Okay, see, if I just searched with Azure SQL, you can see what are the different Azure SQL related services that can be used, right? So you can see these many SQL and NoSQL options has turned out. And the other way around is just click on this plus arrow, go and create a resource. And here also you can just go and filter down even further. You can search for Azure SQL. Okay, now you should start seeing the services or the marketplace services that provides you Azure with SQL options. You are getting Azure SQL Managed Instance, Azure SQL, and Azure SQL Database Reserved Virtual Cores, and so on. And here, if you click on this specific first option, it will even further drill down to a few options here. Okay, so let me just go and click create. Let's see. So you are getting three different options. Okay, these are the three different options that you have to be little or more familiar with for our today's session. Okay, let me just copy some data from here. Okay, so Azure SQL, it gives you three major variant. Okay, the first variant is something which you are already familiar with. That is nothing but your SQL virtual machine. Yesterday we created a VM, right? We went ahead and created a VM with pre-installed SQL database, right? That is something you can just go and do it. So this option which I'm talking about, you can select SQL 2019 or SQL 2017 with different operating system. Even you can select SQL on SUSE Linux or Ubuntu and Red Hat Linux. So these options are also now supported. I think most of you know about this. Even the SQL Server databases are now compatible with Red Hat, Ubuntu, and the Linux distributions, not only Windows. Okay, you can select these things. So this is mainly for the on-premises lift and shift. If you want to move the existing database servers to the cloud and you want to kind of continue using the VM-based approach or a VM-based support model, you can just migrate it to the Azure virtual machine. This is like a rehosting model or a lift and shift model, right? So if you need OS level access, this is the option that you need to take, the SQL virtual machine option. Okay, let us maybe try to drill down further. Okay. So you have a lot of varieties of options. You have 60 plus images that are available. And this is mainly for lift and shift. And if you need OS level access. And definitely if you have OS level access, you will also have complete control on your database layer as well, right? So it gives you complete full control on the OS level as well as on the SQL database level. That's the advantage you are going to get if you are going for SQL virtual machine. This is infrastructure as a service. This is IaaS, right? IaaS model. Sorry. Okay, now as I told you, you get these many different images with pre-installed option, and you are going to get all these things. Okay, let's not copy paste. Instead, I'll just take it. So this is straightforward option, right? You will just go and create a server with the operating system that you need and the database version that you need, so that you get full control of the data. Now the next option is the managed instance. Okay, managed instance, you want to come to cloud, but you want to kind of enjoy the benefits of cloud native, meaning you don't want to have full access on the OS, but you need full access on the SQL server, the database instance, the SQL instance. If you want to have full access on the SQL instance, then you can go for SQL managed instance. But from the name itself, you can understand that it is the managed instance at the SQL level, okay, database level. Okay, this is also good for lift and shift, but only thing is you're not going to get a lot of control on the OS, but you will get control on the database management, the SQL instance. Okay, and you have two options here. Either you can go and get a single instance managed by the cloud, or you can manage it using the latest Azure Arc solution. I'll explain about Azure Arc during the governance class, but let's for now let's deviate too much. Okay, you get two options where you get full control on the SQL server management and SQL access. You have full access on the SQL DBs or the SQL instance. Okay, so you will get separate virtual network, you will get fully managed option, and you will be having control on the SQL. But if you want to have some kind of complete what you call, like if you want to outsource the complete management of your OAS databases, and you just want to make sure you want to have connectivity and you want to have connection to the database, then you can just go for SQL databases. This is more of a PaaS offering. This is platform as a service offering, where you get access to the databases, and you can just do some small modifications or feature enhancement. You can go and select some options and add performance enhancement and so on. So this is PaaS offering. Okay, this is what most of the people will be interested in, because this is the Azure SQL DB, where you will go and create the database only. You are not going to create the entire instance. You are going to have access only to the databases. And I'm not sure how many of you are clear with this particular classification. So DB instance is the entire SQL instance we are talking about, and DB databases or DB instance is a collection of database. Okay, so one SQL database instance might have more than one database. Yesterday we created multiple database, right? We created on-prem DB, we created AWS database. So one particular SQL instance can have more than one databases. So here Azure SQL DB, it gives you access to the database level. Azure SQL managed instance, it gives you access to the entire DB instance. Azure SQL VM, it will give you access to OS as well as the SQL instance. So that is where these three are a little different from each other. So the more the control that you want, or the more the access you want, you can go for the VM, infrastructure as a service. And if you want to have control only on the SQL instance, then you can go for SQL managed instance. If you want to have only control on the databases, then you can go for Azure SQL DB. Okay, is it clear? The classification is clear? Any questions on that?
No, Stan.
Perfect. So now there are one more sub classification here. Okay, so let me just quickly compare this. Okay, so based on your requirement in the cloud, generally, like whenever we talk about database, we talk about performance. Okay, whenever we talk about performance, we need to understand from the business how much database transaction unit we are looking for. Okay, how many DTU we need. Okay, whether you need a kind of standard DTU or a elastic DTU. Maybe elastic DTU is suitable for application which will have variance in terms of application workload, or if some application needs more database transactions in the morning and in the afternoon and in the evening, something like that, then you can go for eDTU model, which is elastic DTU, which will help you to reduce the cost instead of going for a fixed sizing. So database transaction unit, it's like you go and purchase a specific tier or model based on the workload type. See, for not for all the workload, you might need the same category. Okay, so some target workload, for example, you might need it for test, you might need it for production, you might need it for development, and different workload category, right? And the next thing is you might need different SLA, different uptime, you might need different backup retention, You might need different combination of CPU, memory, and all those things. Some databases might need a different input output per second. You might need different storage sizing. And based on all the DTU requirements, IOPS, storage size, compute, the SLA uptime, you can go and choose which model you need. So where exactly we can find those differences? If you go to a single database creation, you'll get all the different licensing options coming up now. So if I go here, if I scroll down, I can go and choose the specific compute and storage model. So if you look at here, there are different categories that are available. If you look at here, there is a provision model and there is a serverless model. So if I go to the provision model or the general purpose model, here you can see that there are three different categories of purchase option: basic, standard, and premium. So you can go and purchase the database based on the transactions that you're going to make, the application is going to make, right? So let's compare that. Okay, let me put it here. So you have three different models that are available, or options that are available to choose from. So basic, standard, and premium. So as the name suggests, so basic can be mostly used for test environment and development environment, and the standard can be used for development and prod environment, and premium is mainly for production and mission critical. So I know there is an overlap in the terms that I've used, but some people decide even for development that they need some standard performance. In even for production environment, not mission critical, even though it is regular production, they might expect premium performance. So the uptime SLA will be different for the basic, standard, and premium. Even the availability will be different, the uptime. Okay, so the SLA that they provide, the performance that you get will be completely different. See, if you look at here, for less demanding workload, you can go for basic. For workload with typical performance requirement, you can go for standard. For very high IO sensitive workload, you can go for premium model. So these are the three different DTU based purchasing model that are available. Okay, DTU based purchasing model. Okay, this is for high IOPS or sensitive workloads. Okay, this is for moderate sensitive workload, and this is for less sensitive workloads. Okay, so let's see. So if I go and select standard, automatically you can see that you get options to change it from 10 DTU to 3000 DTU. So I mean, when I go and change it, automatically the backend data size is also kind of changing, and the price also will vary when I go and choose the different DTU requirement. So DTU, I would say it is a combination of CPU, memory, and network transactions. So people think like database transaction is mainly like application connecting to database and getting the data back. That is not DTU. I mean that is not alone the thing. But beyond that, even the database transaction unit, it also has different amount of backend combination in terms of CPU, memory, network, and storage. It needs different combination to provide you that level of DTU speed. Okay, at the end, database transaction unit is the round trip between your application and database, but how you can achieve it or how you can improve it. So you have to provision more backend resources for that. You need to increase the memory, you need to increase the capacity so that you will get higher DTU or higher transactions per speed. Okay, so DTU is a measurement to measure the round trip between your application and database, but the DTU will get improved when you go and increase the backend resource sizing. Okay, so you need to understand that. So here, okay, I think there is a definition here. Let me copy that so that okay, so this is the thing. Okay, so that is what I'm talking about. It's a blender measure of CPU, memory, reads and write. So people think it is only on the reads and write. They will think when application connect to database, it reads and writes the data. That's not alone the measurement. It also has some kind of dependency on the CPU and the memory. Okay, so I just want to make sure you guys understand the real definition behind DTU. Okay, so that is one thing. And here in general, you get around when it comes to IOPS, you get around, I would say 2.5 IOPS per DTU, and here per DTU you get around 48 IOPS. That's the level of difference you have. So from 2.5 IOPS per DTU to 48 IOPS, input output per second per DTU. So if you are provisioning one DTU, it will give you 48 input outputs per second. So, and based on that, if your application is demanding more, you can give more DTU, assign more DTU, and you can increase the amount of IOPS you are going to get. Okay, so you can just understand that. And also you are going to get a lot of speed, because you're on the back end, they will be using NVMe SSD or a lot of catching and other things to improve the round trip time, or improve the catching, or like, sorry, not 2 minutes, 2 milliseconds for every read and write. So here you might have 5 millisecond, you might have 10 milliseconds. So the time it takes to respond might be different. Okay, so it might take up to 10 minutes to write and complete the transaction. It might take up to 5 minutes to read and complete the transaction. So it depends on read and write also. Sometimes the reading might be a little faster, maybe it will complete the read in 5 minutes itself, but it will take 10 minutes to complete the write operation, or complete the write and confirm back. Okay, so you guys are following. So if you look at here, if I go and select the other sizes, it automatically goes and change the backend CPU and memory. For example, I would say for basic, they provide you how much? Up to 250 GB capacity, right? Similarly, if I go back and select premium, they give you up to 1024 GB capacity. And also you get option to go and have a zone retention option. This is the important thing that you need to consider premium. If you want to have data center level reliability or redundancy, then you need to go for premium option. So in terms of high availability, you get more availability in terms of premium. So standard and basic, it will be in the same availability zone or data center. But if you go for the premium option, you get the option to scale out and select multiple data centers also, multiple availability zones also. So that is the main important difference when you compare between standard and premium. Okay, so let me just copy paste this so that you can go and choose the DTU model based on the performance requirement. Okay, so the other thing that you need to understand is the generation behind this. So if I go back one step, if I select this, you are also getting multiple generation. So if I look at here, currently we are using general purpose vCore model, right? And at the bottom, you have the option to choose between different generation. So Gen 5, it provides you up to 4 terabytes of storage, and it gives you maximum 400 GB capacity. And also you can go up to 80 virtual core. And if you look at the older generation instance family, it doesn't provide you that much. And also if you want to, it's a kind of combination of pricing also, right? So if you are going for confidential computing, they also provide you encryption and other things. If you are creating a database for your business critical workload or some confidential application, then you always should choose DC series. This is very, very important when you make decisions, okay, as an architect. DC series are mainly intended for encryption and confidential computing. If your application has to uh, store the data at rest in and kind of with high confidentiality, then you need to use the DC series, and it is double the cost. Okay, so this is just 8159 or 8160. This one is 16,300. It is exactly double the cost, but you are going to get only less cores, less memory and storage. But the important thing is you are going to get encryption and confidentiality enabled at the hardware level, and no one can tamper the data. But if you're just looking at performance and business critical workload, then you can go for general purpose version 5. You will get it for lesser price, and you can consume more capacity. So it all depends on how you want to balance between security and performance. Okay, if you want to have higher security, then you need to pay more with DC series. If you want to get more performance, then you can go for generation 5 or FS series. Okay, so that is another option which you need to be aware of. So you have different hardware generation, which when different instance family that provides you different performance levels. Okay, and the next option is provisioned and server. Provision means you'll get a backend servers that will be provisioned. It is like a Azure virtual machine. But if you want to have containers or serverless option, you don't want to have servers running, then you can go and choose serverless option. This is container based option. Okay, there are two types of options. If you want to go by virtual machine type, and if you want to provision multiple virtual machines for your databases, then you can go for provisioned option. If you want to run containers and you don't want to have virtual machines, then you can go for serverless concept. Serverless is very, very cheap compared to your uh, provisioned option. If you look at here, the estimated cost will be very, very low. I mean, you go for the serverless and all those things. So, but you also have few more options. So this is vCore based purchase model. So in this particular DTU model, you are not getting guaranteed amount of virtual CPU. You are not getting guaranteed amount of virtual core here. But in this option, in the vCore purchasing model, you will get guaranteed amount of virtual CPU. So if you are talking about on-premises virtual machine, you will ask how much CPU you have provisioned, right? So that is something not available in DTU. In DTU, you will have a mix of CPU, memory, and IOPS. But in vCore model, you will get guaranteed amount of virtual cores. If you want like 8 virtual core or 20 virtual core or 100 virtual core, you will get specific virtual CPU. Okay, so virtual core based model. So you have general purpose, and you got, I'll just copy paste it. Okay, you will get hyperscale and business critical. So if you go to hyperscale, you are getting one additional option here. So you will okay, let me just close this. You're getting option to select the high availability replica option here. Okay, you can just go and have your workloads scaled out. Okay, you can create more and more replicas automatically. It will automatically add additional replicas, and it will help you to have high availability across the region. Okay, this option is available in the hyperscaling option. The hyperscale, by name itself, you can see it can scale beyond a particular region. It can go and add additional nodes in secondary region, but those are all secondary replicas, or maybe I would say like it does not provide you most of the cases it does not provide you modify option or write option, but it is a secondary replica that you will get in another region also. Okay, so this is mainly very costly. Okay, and based on your requirement, you can go and choose the hyperscale option. So here you also have the business critical. So business critical, see, you also have the option to be zone redundant, and also it provides you scale out, but not like hyperscale option. Hyperscale option, it will take you beyond the region, and it will automatically create more secondary replicas based on the region that you are selecting. Okay, so you can see that there are difference in all these options, and one another important option is you get 10 GB just for storing your log files. Okay, for 2 virtual core and 32 GB of data requirement, you are getting this log space automatically. So when you're talking about database, there are three things, right? Your actual data, and then the logs, then the temporary DB, right? Temp DB. So in vCore option, they also help you to give, I mean, they provide you logs option also. You can also go and analyze any issues or root cause. You get more control and more options on the vCore based purchasing model. You also get access to the logs on the back end of your database. Okay, so based on your criticality of your application, based on your workload requirement, you can go and choose between these three different service tier. Okay, you have general purpose, you have business critical, and hyperscale, right? So it all depends on the application owner, what kind of budget they have, what kind of performance they are looking for, whether they want to have replicas across the globe, whether they want to have replica across different availability zone. Based on their inputs, we are going to help them choose the specific option. Okay, as an architect, we are going to help them choose it. But I mean, if you are an implementation engineer, you are going to select the specific option and create the database. That is what you are going to do it, right? So let's not complicate the topic more, and I'll just help you to create a SQL database. Okay, in the interest of time, I'll just go and create a Azure SQL database, and I'll give you step-by-step instructions first, and then we'll try to discuss the remaining options. Okay, so in order to create a Azure SQL database, you can go to Azure SQL DB, and you can start creating it. Okay, you can select the SQL database as option, and you will get the console to go and create the SQL databases. Okay, you can just go and create a SQL database. Yesterday we created for migration purpose, right? So this is the screen you will get into. So in order to create it, you have to choose the subscription as usual. Okay, and you need to have a resource group. So these are bare minimal things needed for any resource in Azure, right? So you need to have an active subscription. I'll select specific Subscription I don't have for database. I'll just create something for database. Okay, so now it will ask for database name. Okay, so database name is the actual application backend database. This is not the instance name. This is the actual database name. See, for example, if I'm planning to create a database for my VMware database, I can just give it a name called VCDB and assign it to the application. So it goes and checks few things. Okay, so it should not have any special patterns or characters. So it has some limitations. Okay, so you can just make sure you are following that. Okay, so it is a Azure hosted database, right? You cannot have the same name across different databases. So when you go and select a database name, you should make sure that it does not have any reserved words and all those things. So you are giving the database name. Now you also go and create a SQL Server instance, but you will not have access to it. You can just give it a name and Microsoft will take care of it. Okay, I'll just select a server. If you have an existing server, I can go and share the server for creating multiple database. Okay, yesterday we created one Azure SQL DB server one, right? I can select the existing one, or I can go and create a new SQL server for the database requirement. Now, this option is interesting option. If you are having an application which will have difference in database requirement, meaning morning if it is having very high transactions and in the evening it will have very low transaction, then you need not go and reserve the size. Instead, you can go for elasticity option, which will help you to reduce the cost based on the usage. Okay, reduce the cost by changing the consumption model to map the business requirement, to match the business requirement. So if your business is demanding for 100 DTU in the morning and only 10 DTU in the evening, so you need not pay for 100 DTU consistently. Instead, you can pay for what is being actually used. This is the pay-as-you-go model that you're talking about, right? So pay for the actual consumption. But you should not use this option for very business critical option, because there is a buffering time. Okay, it'll initial records whenever it starts populating, the elasticity has to happen on the back end, the compute and the provisioning has to happen. So you don't recommend it for mission critical application. It can be used for some normal applications and testing and development environment. Okay, so the elastic option, the elastic pool. Okay, the next one you need to choose is the compute and storage. That's what we were talking about, right? Whether you want a zone redundant option, whether you want a kind of hyperscale option or general purpose. So based on the service tier, you can just go and choose between general purpose or hyperscale or business critical option. Okay, here I'll just go with general purpose. Even okay, 2 virtual core and 32 GB is fine. And the next one is the storage for your backup. This is not the actual database. Here we are talking about the redundancy for your backup. Okay, so backup redundancy, backup storage redundancy. If you want to have your backup stored in a different region, you can go and choose the different option here. You can go and choose geo redundancy only if you want to go and replicate the backup in another region. If your organization does not allow, or if your compliancy requirement does not allow to store the data outside of the geographical boundary or outside of the region, make sure you are not selecting this option. Okay, so based on the requirement, you can go and store the backup content in the same data center or across data center or across region. So yeah, we already discussed about these 3 difference in storage class, right? Local redundant, it will be within the same data center. Zone redundant, it will be within the same region but across different data center. Geo redundant, it will be across different geographical region. Okay, so next option, I'll go with the networking. So here you also have the option to add the IP addresses or range of systems that will access this. So here in firewall rules, generally we will go and allow the application IP address and the management server IP addresses. So if the system, if the database administrators are connecting from different system, or if they want to manage using SQL Server Management Studio from some specific systems, you can go and add those server IP address. So under the firewall rules, yesterday we added my local IP, as well as I added the IP address of the system where I have the SQL Server Management Studio installed, right? I can just go and add the current client IP address, which is my IP address. It will automatically add it to the firewall rule, and it will help you to access it. And if you want to only manage the database, and if you want to connect application only within Azure platform, always make sure you are enabling this private endpoint. So private endpoint will block all the access from the internet. You will be able to access only from within your Azure platform. So outside access will be blocked. Okay, if you want to have that thing, you can enable it. Okay, by default nowadays, like, they are giving you option to use transport layer security for the encryption and their connectivity. Okay, so by default it is transport layer security 1.2 is enabled. I think you can go back to the previous version if in case application is having some issues in terms of compatibility. You can lower the version to 1.1 or 1.0, but by default this is the default encryption layer, connection that it is chosen by default. Okay, so here let's go to the security screen. You can also add Microsoft Defender for SQL, like your operating system. Now you also have the anti-malware or antivirus for your SQL database level. Okay, that option you can add. That again, it's a separate cost for thing. And you can also add the ledger. This is a very new option. Okay, so this is to make sure that no one is modifying the data, or whoever is modifying is authorized to do it. Okay, it will. This is for auditing purpose. Okay, if you want to track of all the data changes and making everything logged or captured, you can go and configure the ledger. This is in a preview state now. And also you can go and configure the encryption on the data which is stored actually. So here we are talking about data when in transit, when the data is getting transferred, but here we are talking about when the data is at rest, it is also encrypted. Okay, so we are talking about how to secure your backups, data, logs, and all those things. Okay, the next thing is the additional settings, where we talk about the data collation. If you want to have the different language instead of Latin, you can go and change whatever language you want. Okay, this is again depends on your application owner. Application owner has to tell you what collation they need for their application, and you can choose the language. So when you go and create a SQL database in Azure, you get three options. You can go and create a blank database. You can create a database from existing backup from your on-premises, or you can go and create with some sample data. Okay, you get three options. Blank DB, you can create a restore from a backup. You can also go and create a sample DB. Okay, so just for having some data, I can choose sample DB so that it will have some sample data within that. Okay, click next and create. Okay, so these are the options you are getting when you go and create a SQL database in Azure platform. Okay, so this is the important thing for your exam also. For exams, you will be they will be focused on Azure SQL databases only, not on the VM or not on the SQL on Azure VM. Okay, this is the important thing that you need to be clear about when it comes to AZ 104 and AZ 303 exam, especially. Okay, any specific questions on the different options that we went through? Okay, if not, let's give it a minute. Go ahead.
Is there an option for availing high availability, like database cluster kind of setup in Azure?
Yeah, so you get the business critical option, right? That will have a kind of a cluster on the backend at the infrastructure level. By default, it is redundant across availability zone. But if in case you need to have control on what kind of clustering technology you want to use, and if you want to use Microsoft SQL database clustering or Metro cluster, then you need to go to Azure SQL VM only.
Okay, it's not available from the SQL DB level. So it's
it is, I mean, they are managing it for you. Okay, they have done the clustering on the back end, and if you are creating instances across availability zone, definitely they will have storage level and the database level clustering and the data transaction happening, or data will be flowing across the databases. And clustering technology is used, but you will not be managing it. See, if I select this business critical option, they are definitely going to store our databases and create replication between different availability zone, right? So automatically backend clustering is what is being involved, but you are not going to handle it. You are going to not going to manage it. Even for the Azure SQL VM, sorry, for SQL VM, you will go and install the clustering technology, configure it, and create the replication and all those things. So it all depends on see, I'll tell you about the availability part. Maybe that will help you to compare. Okay. So, SLA. Okay. See, if you are going for business critical, you are getting 99.995 availability. You're understanding my point, right? So if you're going for just premium tier and not configuring the zone redundant, you're going to get only 99.99. So your availability of your database will be very, very less, right? So they are definitely utilizing the clustering on the back end to achieve it. Okay, so you can just look at this option, look at the screen to understand how they are achieving it. But if you're just going for Azure database without availability zone selection, then you are going to get only 99.99. And if you're not selecting the hyperscale without replica, you will get only 99.95. Okay, so that is something you need to know about. If you are creating more replicas, it will add higher availability. So that's what I talked about SLA here, right? So your SLA will be different for different categories. Make sense, or you're still confused? Yeah.
Got it. Yeah, thanks.
See, here also you get that. See, no other provider provides this much of uptime. None of the providers, even including Oracle, they don't provide it. Okay, the best availability and business continuity you get is only from Microsoft Azure. 30 seconds RTO, 100% credit, 5 seconds RPO. No one else will be guaranteeing that. These are some selling point, okay, sales point. But again, since you asked the question, I'm just touching those areas. But you can definitely highlight this. Okay, it's not 100%. Sometimes the Excel works that way. Sorry. Okay, it is actually 99.995. Okay, I'll correct that, but yeah, I don't know. 995. Okay, let me do one thing. How do I fix that? Percentage decimal with 3. Yeah. Okay. Okay, you can go through that. See, for you, it is needed, Ganesh, because you might be talking to different people, the business owners directly. So if you need to understand that. But for the people at the implementation level, definitely it will be overkill for them, and they will feel like they are given too much of information. But yeah, so for your question, if you go and understand how Microsoft achieves that level of availability and SLA, will answer your question, or will give you a deep dive insight on how they are able to achieve it and how they are, what kind of technology they are using it. Okay, so here, but if you can also do it. Okay, if you want to build the systems from the ground up, you can go and create VMs, you can go and install database, you can configure Microsoft failover cluster, you can definitely achieve more availability by creating virtual machines in different availability zone, and you have to design it, you have to achieve that. But I feel like it's very tough to achieve 99.995 in your design or when you do the design. Okay, but they give it with assurance. If they are not able to achieve it, then they are going to give you the service credit, or they are going to pay the penalty for you. But if you are a design engineer and you are trying to do it on your own, there is a lot of overhead. Okay, OAS, clustering, monitoring is the biggest pain when you are going and designing all these things. Okay, so people will be concerned that they are getting performance issues on all those things, but here they gave you credit also, like they are assuring the performance also there. Okay, let's go and check it here. Now once after the database is created, they will give you the server name. Okay, they will also give you the different connection strings that you can use to connect to your database. Okay, this is the server name that you can use for connecting to your database. So it will have unique name, so database.windows.net. If you want to configure your custom suffix, you can do that. And the next important thing is the connection string. This is very important because not all the application accept the same string, right? So different application will have different string method. So if you are created the database, I mean, if you have created the application using JDBC or Java or ODBC connection requirement, or if you are using Node.js, if you are using PHP or Go or different programming language, the connection string will be little different. So you might have used the ODBC connection in your server, so where you go to the control panel and configure this, right? So you have different connection strings for different programming language or the different driver that you have used. Based on the programming or the driver, you can go and copy the connection string. It supports ODBC, it supports Node.js, PHP, Java, Go, and so on. .NET, we should not miss out .NET, right? Windows. Okay, so you have different connection strings for different applications. Okay, and besides that, this set server firewall is the option where you go and get all the different connectivity figured out, or who needs to connect, or who can connect, or who cannot connect. So that is the option called set firewall rules, which will allow incoming connections from specific IP or IP range. Okay, the next one is the connection option. Either you can use Azure Data Studio or Visual Studio or your SQL Management Studio option. Okay, I'm not sure. Okay, 11:50, right? We have some time. Okay, let me connect to the server here. How many of you have used Azure Data Studio? It's a beautiful tool to for the data engineers. Okay, it gives you a lot of options. You can manage different databases and cloud, on-prem, and other cloud in one single location. You can copy data, you can move data, you can do a lot of engineering related activities at the data level in Data Studio. Let me quickly show that. Sorry team, there was a brief network outage and my audio was not. Am I audible back now?
Yeah, now I can hear you.
Yeah, sure.
I think we lost you about 20
yeah,
seconds.
correct. Maybe 20 seconds. Yeah, right. So network switchover did not happen. Okay, let me just log in here. Just a second, send the notification. Ready to approve. Okay, so now I can go to the databases. Microsoft gives us the option to manage the databases in multiple ways, and one of the option is managing using the Azure Data Studio, which is a very good, very powerful tool which can be used for managing databases. You can use it for managing NoSQL DBs, all those things. Okay, so you get this option. The beautiful thing is you get the option to get it installed on Windows, Linux, and MacBook, all of them. I'll just go and run this. So if you are interested in the Data Studio, I've given a separate session completely. I'll give you access to the session recording. You can just go through those detailed data related classes. Okay, let me open it. So this is a very good cross-platform tool. You can use it for connecting. Okay, I accept. You can connect to database and data warehouse. That is another important thing. So let's start. Create a desktop icon, register. Okay, install. So this is the powerful tool. You can manage your on-premises database. You can manage your cloud database. Everything can be managed in one single location using Azure Data Studio. Okay, I'll show you some quick demo on that. Okay, it's a cross-platform tool, meaning you can use it on any operating system. You can install it on Windows, MacBook, Linux. Many database data engineers are using this tool. Okay, database administrators, they are very comfortable with their SQL management studio, but many programmers or data engineers, they are all using this. This is mainly for engineering team, data engineering team, because this is going to help you extract, transform, and load the data into different tool sets. Okay, let's give it a minute. It will get installed quickly. Okay, it's done. So it's a very simple tool. It is very easy to use also. So if you go to the left, you have the connections options here. So you can go and either add a new connection, or if you click on this add connection, it gives you multiple different options. Okay, so if you look at the right here, you have the option to connect to Microsoft SQL Server. You can connect to different systems. Okay, let's connect to the database which we have deployed. I can just copy the SQL database server name. This is the Azure SQL DB, right? I can just copy and paste that, and I can use SQL login, and I can give my username and password that I've given. Okay, and if you want to select specific data, you can select that. Okay, and I can just add my machine. So this machine has to be added on the server IP, because I'm connected on 20, 127, 122.71, right? This is something I need to add it here under the set secure firewall. Automatically, this data studio has the option to go and add this client IP. Okay, that is another beautiful thing. Okay, so you can add an account. Automatically, it will go and do that for us. Okay, it gives you step-by-step automatic options, or wizard-driven option to add it automatically. So now it's done. So our IP should be added here. I can go and refresh it and see that. See, I think 20, here it is. Okay, maybe I can just also quickly add it to avoid any delay. Okay, I've added my system there. So now I can just say okay. It will also go and add my client IP anyways, but I've also added it directly. Now I'll be able to see the different databases on the Azure platform. So yesterday using the same server, I created Azure DB01 and today I've created VCDB01, right? Both the databases are now available. And if I want to connect to VCDB01, automatically by default, it will connect to this. And if I remove this, it will connect to the server and you will be able to see all the databases. I can say connect and you will be able to see all the different databases which we created yesterday and today, both the databases. And within this database yesterday, we created few tables also, right? I mean, we migrated the Saturday table from another SQL server to here. Okay, and similarly, under the connection option, if you go here, I can just minimize this. Okay, we have a lot of other options also. See, if I click on the extension, you have a lot of different tools available. Okay, you have the option for Azure CLI, you have the option to add managed instance, you can have PowerShell, you can have antivirus, a lot of different packages are there. Okay, so let me scroll down and show you something. So you have assessment tool also. If you want to go and do some assessment on your SQL database and provide some report in terms of how you are configured, best practices, whether it is having all the proper configurations. So a lot of hundreds of tools are being provided using the Azure Data Studio. So as I told you, this is mainly for the data engineers. Okay, so they will can use this for different visualization, transformation, and it will also give you a lot of tools to go and protect your system. Okay, and if you want to get quick answer like who is active, it will tell you who are all active, currently connected, which application is connected. Beautiful tools are there. These are all tool sets which you can install and integrate to your Azure Data Studio. This Azure Data Studio itself is a 3-day class. Okay, you need at least 24 hours to learn this, but it has a lot of different options. You can add the SQL migration package or plugin so that you can migrate the databases and so on. Okay, and with that said, I'll come back to the connections here. You have three major options. Okay, you can connect to the servers or you can connect to the Azure platform directly. You can add your account and whatever the databases that you have in this account, all of them will be listed now. Okay, I'll quickly show you that. So you can directly log in with your Azure account and all the database related stuffs which are in your Azure account, Azure subscription, everything will be visible, everything will be listed. Okay, sorry, once again it is asking. Okay, I have uploaded the connection. So once after I log into my account, the Azure Data Studio will show my subscription, and within the subscription, whatever SQL server, SQL database, everything will be visible for my usage. The SQL database managed instance, the SQL databases, log analytics workspace, everything. And similarly, I can also go and add big data cluster systems also. Okay, so with Azure Data Studio, you are not just going to manage the data, you are also going to get options to go and do engineering and analysis, visualization, transformation, extraction, further fine tuning, optimization, normalization. You get a lot of beautiful options here. It's a very good tool for data engineers, but I just want to show you a glimpse of it. I'm not intended to, I'm not planning to show you all the options here, but this is a very good graphical tool to explore. Okay, it gives you options to move data between different platforms also. Okay, so just if you are interested, go through my session recording. I have another session which is recorded purely for data engineer. I'll get you access, you can go through that. Okay, but coming back here, if you want to look at the information which is in this database and so on, they are also giving you a query editor which you can log in and look at the data table and all those things within the console itself. I showed you yesterday, right? After migration, I logged into the query editor and I showed you how to look at the tables, how to look at the different databases and all those things. This is in preview still. Okay, but this is a very good option. The reason is you don't have to have a separate jump server or a separate management client. Okay, you can directly manage from within the browser, within the Azure console. Okay, that is the biggest advantage. Otherwise, you have to go and install SQL Management Studio or Data Studio or Visual Studio to go and visualize and look at. But here they have given the option to directly connect and you can query, you can run all different things within the console itself, right? And visualization, let's leave that for now. Okay, so you can go and replicate the data. See, for example, I have one database here, right? So for example, if I want to do some replication from one database to another, I can also do that. I can go and create a sync group. So from, I would say from DB1 to DB2. Just I'm showing some example, okay? Using existing database, I'll just go and select Azure SQL DB1, and I will just start replicating it to the other database. Okay, use existing database, sync metadata. Okay, fine. So if you have databases in primary location and remote locations, you can select which one is the primary information for data. If people are updating the data in the member locations or remote locations, then you can select the member as well. If the transaction changes or if the changes are happening mainly in the main site, you can select the hub site as the winner. Okay, mainly like they will use the hub site as the primary concept. Now I've created a sync group, but I have not selected which databases to get synchronized. Okay, I'll add that shortly. Okay, just give me a minute. So this is a very useful option when you want to synchronize two different databases from one business to another business. You can also do that. For example, different organization might have to collaborate, right? So one organization might need to have some visibility of the data. So instead of giving access to the database, you can configure synchronization between two different organization database, and they can replicate a specific table or content, and you can have the data visible on both the applications, right? Let's refresh for a second. I have the database sync group ready. So now let me go here. It will take 1 or 2 minutes. It's not yet ready. Let's wait for a minute. Okay, Replica is creating more databases in another region or another location. You can just go and create a replica in different region just for safer side. If organization want to safeguard your databases and have the replica kept in another region, you can go and create a geo replica. This is a very good option for protecting your data. If in case of major regional outage or data center outage, if you want to sustain your business, you can go and create a geo replica, which will go and replicate the database in another region, and you can overcome any regional failure or long outages. Okay, these two are data management option which you need to be aware of for the AZ104 exam. Okay, let's see, it's still not ready. Let me try to do this in another one. Any questions from anyone so far? I know we are already closer to the time. Okay, it will take some time. Let's not let's not create too much of conflict with the other one. Okay, so other than that, okay, maybe there are a couple of more information that we need to understand when you go for is a 303 exam, like the dynamic data masking option and the defender option. So these two are very important option, because see, if you're storing information for some business critical financial application or some business organizations, they might want you to hide the data. For example, they might want to um, uh, don't want you to openly show the phone numbers, or they don't want to show you the credit card details or some date of birth information. Like a lot of information they want you to mask. For example, you can just say like xxxx hyphen xxxx and some numbers here, and then like you can go and do a data masking, meaning you can go and hide some specific information when the agent will expire, or you can just go and add some mask for different information. Like for your Saturday database table, if I want to mask something in the location, I can just add some wildcard characters to hide the important data. Okay, this is called masking concept. So if I want to mask some last 4 digit in the phone number or first 4 digit in the phone number, I can just keep on adding the mask value. Okay, the mask will go and hide some of the information in specific column in my table. Okay, yesterday I created a table, right? In that table, if I want to mask something on the phone number column or credit card column, or I want to mask some location column, it will go and add some wildcard characters, or it will have asterisks on specific important things so that the information is not visible. So a lot of organization will ask for dynamic data masking on the table level at the data level. You're able to follow me, right? So instead of showing the entire thing, if I go and list the content, it will not show the complete data. Instead, it will show some wildcard characters to hide the complete information. Okay, that is the dynamic data masking that is available within your SQL database itself. And the next option is the antivirus. Microsoft Defender for Cloud is now available for database. That is another important thing. Okay, you can also enable antivirus for databases. Okay, so if you are planning to appear for specific exams like data exams, then you need to go through all the different things like how to do a performance tuning, how to do a automatic tuning, and all those things. But now I'm not going to get too much into that. Any questions from anyone so far? How to connect, how to manage? Okay, even you can connect it from the SQL Management Studio, right? Yesterday we saw a couple of options. That's the reason I'm not getting into the same exact thing. Yesterday we installed SQL Management Studio and we connected to the databases, right? I can show that. Is there anyone with database administration background in this class? Okay, interesting. So that's the reason the class is very quiet. Okay. Okay, so in the nutshell, the understanding that you should have is Azure SQL database is a powerful option where you'll get access only to the database, and you will get a lot of connection options where you can connect it directly from your application or your SDK, and you will be able to access the database with very, very low cost and with very less maintenance work or overhead. You don't have to manage the backend infrastructure, operating system, database instance. You just need to manage only your database integrity. You need to check, you can do performance tuning at the database level. You can do restriction, firewall restriction, data masking, and all those things within the database. You can create a replica of your database in another region. You can take backup of your data. You can also, you have an option to go and restore the database also here. Okay, if you look at here, you also have the option to go and restore it here. If you go and click restore, it gives me option to go and restore at a specific point in time. Automatically the backup will happen very frequently. If I go and look at here, it gives me the option to restore it from the same local region or from a different geo region also. So a lot of good options are there. Okay, a lot of activities you can take care of. Okay, so any specific questions on the option that we have seen so far? Maybe I might need some 30 minutes or one more hour to look at few more options. But for now, I don't want to bombard you with too much of data. Okay, but understand these things. These are all very important as a beginner to data. You can understand what exactly the data is, what exactly the difference between OLTP, OLAP, SQL, NoSQL, database, data warehouse, and then the different options that we get in Azure. Okay, and the focus should be on Azure DB. Okay, Azure SQL database. That is the one which you will be questioned more in AIS 104. But you are preparing for AIS at 304 or 305 exam, or if you are preparing for data specialty exam, then you need to understand all the different options in very detailed way. Otherwise, I think you can just know up to this point. This should be more than sufficient for AIS at 104 and 303 exam. Okay, any specific questions from anyone on what we have discussed today?
No, Stan.
No? Okay, good. I know yesterday we took some additional time, so I'll give back maybe minutes extra today from the session. Okay, so I'll stop the recording. Thank you for